want to thank those of you who are here already. Maybe we could take just a minute to do some introductions. Sarah is Chief of Staff here at VoIPTools, and I am Matthew Orr. I am the owner and founder of VoIPTools, and one could argue that I'm the chief architect of all of our applications as well. Oh, also, by the way, I'm in England right now, uh, in not too far from Stratford upon Avon, but I'm out in the country, and my internet connection is not the greatest. So I apologize if my voice is less than perfect. We're doing the best we can given where I am. We're not going to do a deep dive on these applications, but I did want to give you a flavor of some of the different wallboards that we've created. This is all of them. This is just kind of a general example of the types of wallboards that we've created. We do have 4 wallboards that are commercial products that are fully supported and have installers and manuals and all of that stuff. That's the first 4 on the left. And then we have a plethora of wallboards that we've created for other customers. So I'll just kind of go through the high points of these wallboards to kind of give you a flavor for the kinds of things that we do. Why don't we start with this first one, I guess. And this is our competitive wallboard. So competitive wallboard, let's talk a little bit about the purpose of this wallboard and what some of the benefits of this wallboard are. Unlike the really good wallboard that's provided by 3CX, we took a very different approach on this first wallboard that we created. 3CX shows you good global summary information about an individual queue. And what we heard over and over again was that we want to see all of the telephone calls, inbound calls, outbound calls. Our agents are doing lots of things besides just taking inbound queue calls. They may be calling customers back to talk to them about their ticket, or customers may be calling them directly, or maybe one of their colleagues is forwarding a telephone call to them. And these are all taking up time and energy and effort from these agents. And if you're only looking at inbound queue calls, you really don't get the full picture of the productivity of given agents. So one of the things that you'll notice right off the bat is that we keep track of both inbound and outbound telephone calls. Now, these are external telephone calls, meaning that these are calls that originated or went to the outside. So if a call came in, hit an IVR, went to a receptionist, and the receptionist forwarded that call to an agent, that's still an external call because it originated outside of 3CX. So they're going to get credit for that telephone call as well as outbound calls that they make, as well as telephone calls that come through a queue. What we don't count are extension to extension calls. This is just external telephone calls. And there's a couple of things that you should notice off the top of the bat. And that is that we're showing presence status of these agents here. And this is all real time, by the way. So if a telephone call takes place, you'll see these squares change numbers and colors. So we show the phone status, if it's ringing, if it's answered, dialed, ringing, and connected or available. Those are the statuses for phone status. And then the present status is available, away, do not disturb, and lunch. I'm not sure if they have integrated our custom presence statuses into this wallboard yet. That's a topic for another day, but we can also allow you to have additional presence statuses in one of our other tools besides just the generic ones that come with 3CX. And then this shows you how long they've been in this status. All right, so this is a wallboard that shows individual agents and their productivity. It shows inbound calls, outbound calls, but there's a couple of things that aren't intuitively obvious looking at this screen. And one of those is the order in which agents are presented on the screen. Agents appear in the order of those that are most productive based on criteria that you specify. So if you want to know who's the most productive agent, you look at the top of the wallboard. And in this example, Adam would be the most productive. And so if you want to know who's the least productive, you look at the bottom of the list. And this is just sample data, by the way, so don't panic, Sarah, that you're at the bottom of the list. But you can customize this quite a bit. Right now, let's change this over to the sales queue and see how that changes. All right, so it looks like there's only one person logged into the sales queue right now. But let's go over here to settings and then to grid columns. And these are all the different calculations that you can add to that wallboard. So if you recall, this is the columns that are being displayed right now. And remember, the first one was a photo, and that wasn't the real photo. Those are just stock photos. I'm going to remove that photo from the list of displayed columns. And now when I come back into the wallboard, you'll see it's much more condensed because the photograph has been removed. So it's fairly straightforward how you add and remove columns. So a couple things to notice is that we allow you to set quotas for the day, for the week, for the month, inbound calls, outbound calls, presence status, phone status, idle time. So there's a bunch of calculations, and you choose which ones you care about, and you can hide and show whichever ones you want. Also, if we go into agents, here you can import or update the agents by clicking on this icon, and it will import those agents from the 3CX server. If you want, you can change their name. So you could come in here and just change my name to Matt, for example. And if you want 3CX to override the nickname that I put in for myself, you would check this checkbox here. If I want to have a group message, right now I'm on the wallboard queue. So I put top agent, it's free movie. So that's for the wallboard group there, right? All right, so now if I go back to the wallboard, it now says top agents free movie tickets. So any kind of notifications that you want to give. Don't forget the birthday party at 1 o'clock, or get a half day off for Good Friday, or whatever you want to put up here, you can put up here. But there's a couple of things to note here. One of the things that this does is give managers visibility into what's happening with their agent, who's productive, who's not productive, who's available and who's not available, how many calls have they taken, what's the average talk time, what's their total talk time, what's their idle time. This is all information that you get. But there's another perhaps hidden thing. I don't think we have a queue that has a lot. Oh, I could probably choose default. There we go. That'll give us a few more agents. So one of the things we have to recognize is that there are multiple things that motivate people. And if I were an agent and I saw that I was at the bottom of the list, meaning I was the least productive in the whole group, I'm going to look up at this wallboard and I'm going to go, oh, shoot, if I don't get working, my boss is going to come over here and tap me on the shoulder and we're going to have a very unpleasant conversation. So I'm going to start making more calls, taking more calls, being more productive. Well, what does that do? That applies pressure to the person that's on the second from the bottom. And so this all starts cascading on top of each other. Everybody's trying to get off of the bottom of the list so that they don't have that unpleasant telephone call from their boss. At the same time, you've got those people that are, those habitual grinders that are always at the top of the list. And you can imagine a scenario that I'm on the top of the list as the most productive agent. I know that I'm going to get the free movie tickets today. I got the free Starbucks certificates yesterday. I got the extra day of vacation the day before that. So I'm feeling pretty smug. So you get social pressure to get off the bottom of the list. You have competition going on at the top of the list. Managers can see who's producing and who's not, and can see the numbers that are important to them. So that is our competitive wallboard. Let's
We do
take a
have a
good
question.
Oh, okay. Yes.
How do you measure agents' productivity?
So there's a couple of options. Let me go in here. Okay, so if I go to settings and then general settings. So let's see. Yeah, I didn't even talk about this part. You can set the font size. You can set the picture size. You can set the default um, group that is displayed. But you saw that I also, you're able to choose different extension groups. You can set a minimum call duration in order for it to be counted, because you wouldn't want an agent to go, oh, shoot, I'm way behind. So I'm just going to call my cell phone and hang up and call my cell phone and hang up. So you have to counter those kinds of activities, you can set a minimum call length. We also have shifts. So if I choose shifts, it'll let me select start and end time of shifts, so that the counters are reset. So how do we measure productivity? So it's either by the number of calls that they made during the day, or by the talk time, and or by the total number of outbound calls or the total number of inbound calls. So you have 4 different ways that you can sort who displays on the screen. If you have one big screen TV and you're wanting to present a wallboard, but you need to show multiple groups, you can come in here and you can select which groups you want to cycle through, and then how frequently you want to cycle through them. That's it. Then how often you want them to refresh. So you could do it every 30 seconds, every minute, and it'll just cycle through each of these groups so that you can have one big screen TV and show multiple groups in intervals at whatever you set. This one is the one where you select which extension groups are available for you to choose from the combo box up at the top. And this one defines if you're going to cycle through different extension groups, which ones you want to automatically cycle through. That's what that's all about. It's been a while since I looked at that screen, I guess. Hopefully I answered your question. This is actually in the same product. It's part of the competitive wallboard. And I don't know that I necessarily need to display this one. Essentially, what it does is it displays all the same information that 3CX displays on their wallboard, but you see them all together. You can see all of your cues at once. So that's kind of a nice feature. I'm not even going to jump into that one because there really isn't a lot of settings. Well, yeah, there isn't any settings for this one. It's just going to show you all of your cues. Okay, so let's go look at another one. First, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you a mock-up of this one. So let's click on it, and you'll see why here in a minute why I want to show you a mock-up of this one rather than the active one first. So this is a mock-up of that same wallboard, and let me explain what we're looking at. These are all agents. We wrote this wallboard for Barracuda Networks, and they have over 1,000 agents that are taking calls 24 hours a day. They have hundreds of queues, and they found using the 3CX wallboard to be grossly insufficient and impossible to see everything that they needed to see. So they wanted to be able to create a wallboard where they could see all of their agents that they're currently interested in and what their current status is. So this red column are agents that are currently on the phone servicing customers. The green ones are agents that are logged into the queues, but they're not currently taking a call. The blue ones are agents that are on a telephone call, but it's not a queue call. The yellow ones are agents that are unavailable for whatever reason. So presence is set to do not disturb, for example. And the last one is agents that are members of the queue, but that are currently logged out of the queue. All right, so that's what that one is all about. Let's go and actually look at the real thing. So if I go here and I log in, and let's change which queues we're interested in, and I'll just choose all the queues. Well, that didn't really change anything. So you can select which queues you want to monitor, which extension groups you want to monitor, which individual agents you want to monitor. There we go. Now we're getting a few more people. And which columns you're interested in. So if I don't care about the unavailable column, I can remove that column. And that's neat. So now if there were people currently servicing callers, there would be red squares. If it's not obvious, each one of these squares is an agent. Okay. And I can manipulate these agents. Let's see, am I in this list? I'm probably over here. Yep, here I am. So it shows that my present status is away. I could come in here and change my present status and set myself to available. And now I'm over here and my phone will start ringing. So I'm going to change my presence to away again because I don't want my phone to start ringing. So you see how I can log people in and out of queues. I can set their present status. If there was an active telephone call going on, I could right mouse click on that telephone call and do listen, barge, transfer, drop, do all of those kinds of things. So this allows you to have a very large number of engineers that you're monitoring and selectively filter who it is that you're monitoring, either by queues, by groups, by individual agents. And this is really very helpful when you have hundreds of queues and in their case, 1,000 agents. Okay, so that is this one. I'm going to cheat and go right into this one. This is another one that I'm going to need to show you because we don't have any calls going on right now. I'm going to need to show you a mock-up for you to understand this one. But a similar thing is that you select which queues you want to monitor, and then it will display the appropriate information on this side. So I'm going to shrink this down. And now let me go back to that mock-up and I'll show you what it would look like if we had a bunch of calls going on. So this is kind of a facsimile of what the wallboard was that I was just showing, where you selected which queues you wanted to monitor, and then it would show you all of the calls that are currently waiting in the selected queues, sorted by who's been waiting the longest. So obviously the people at the top have been waiting the longest. The people in yellow have been waiting longer than we'd like, but it hasn't become critical. And the white ones are people who've been waiting within the SLA period. But there's a column here that I want to point out, and that's the one that says in system. So it's great to know how long somebody's been waiting in a queue, but let's take a scenario that will demonstrate that that's insufficient information. Let's say that I'm calling into Barracuda Networks and I don't know where to go, so I go to customer service and I say I'm having trouble with my load balancer. And so they transfer me to the load balancer support queue, and I wait my 15 minutes to get through that queue. And I talk to an agent, and the agent says, "Oh no, you don't need the the load balancers. You need to talk to your firewall guy. So I'll transfer you over to firewalls." So he goes and he waits his 10, 15, 20 minutes working his way through the firewall support queue, gets to the agent. The agent says, "Oh, no, everything's fine. Your license has expired and you need to renew your license. So I'm going to transfer you over to sales." So now I'm in sales and I've only been there for 2 minutes. So you'd think, okay, so that's not a big deal, except that I've been actually trying to get somebody who could actually help me for over an hour. So that's what the in system column is how long has this person been struggling to get some help? Okay, so going back to the actual production one, again, you select which queues you want to monitor, and all the calls waiting in those queues will show up here. And these are all real time. I'm kind of surprised that we don't have anybody waiting in any of the queues right now, but cool. That means everybody's doing their job. So we've gone over the wallboard, we've gone over queues. Site settings just let you change colors. So if I come in here and I change the color to orange and lighter orange, and I apply, don't make a liar out of me. There we go. So you can change the colors. This would be the grid color. So we'll make that red, make something really disgustingly ugly. So apply these color changes, and you can add your logos and you can do all those kinds of things to really kind of customize the appearance of these wallboards. So you can put your own kind of mark on it. So it looks like it's part of your company's software. All right, so that's the Q's wallboard. These are all of our commercial wallboards that are on our website, but that's not all.
Matthew, you have another
Let's,
question.
okay. Is it possible to run Surveyor on Linux versions of 3CX, and is it possible to translate text in menu to Czech language? So we support both Windows version of 3CX as well as the Linux version of 3CX. However, as you would expect, these applications are very heavily database driven. And so 3CX won't allow us to use the Postgres database that runs on the 3CX server. So in order for us to install a separate database server, we need a separate server. So the truth of the matter is that whenever you use our tools, there's going to be two servers involved, the 3CX server and the VoIPTools server, where you're going to install all of our applications. We don't have a straightforward way of changing the text. It will display in the proper language whatever information we're pulling from 3CX. So if we pull the presence status, for example, I think it'll show it in the proper language. If you have special characters in your names, it'll show those special characters properly. But changing the column headings to have it in something other than English isn't currently supported, but not difficult for us to make some changes for you if needed. That's certainly on the roadblock. We're currently, well, I checked about 2 years ago. It's been a while since I checked, but 2 years ago we had customers over 90 countries. So trust me, it's on my radar to do it. So we can help you with that. Don't worry about it. We can solve some of those problems for you. Okay, so which one? Let's take a look at a simple one. Let's take a look at this one. So this one, sometimes you'll have a smaller company that just has a single queue and they want to know basic information. So this is an example of one where the customer just wanted to ultra basic information, super simple wallboard. So that's what this one was. But let's take this format and let's take a look at one that's a little more complex. So if you look at this one, I'm going to go ahead and show this one just so that you know that I'm not doing smoke and mirrors kind of things. If I can get it to show, there we go.
Matthew, you do have an additional question to that?
Okay, thanks for the answer. I can help with the translation. Is it possible to export data from Surveyor? From Surveyor? So are we talking about our Surveyor tool or are we talking about Wallboards? I'm going to assume that you mean our Surveyor dialer product, and all of our applications save their data in Microsoft SQL Server. Some of them can also support MySQL as well. So we don't hide that data. It's all there. It's available for you to query against and generate reports, do whatever you want with that data. So yeah, for all of our wallboards and all of our tools, the data is all very much available. All right, so here's one where you have queues across the top and the agent status across the left, and then a summary or total of all of the calls across all of the queues that they're looking at. And I wish somebody would call on the phone so that you could see that these are real time. Maybe I should do it myself. But anyway, that's another example of a wallboard. Let's go back and look at a more, oh, here's another simple one. Let's look at this one since we're looking at simple ones. Go here. So one of the things I haven't been pointing out that I probably should have is that there's a lot of different calculations going into these wallboards, and some of them are similar, but not necessarily. And so we're going to make this webinar available online after this webinar. So if you want to look closer at what the different calculations are that we're displaying in these wallboards, you know, it looks similar to the 3CX wallboards, but what you'll discover is that there's a lot of different calculations going on that aren't available in the 3CX wallboards. You get to change all of the thresholds for these colors so that when it goes from green to yellow to red, those are all settings that you can make. You can select which queue you want to watch. I'd be interested in this one. Oh, yeah. So again, this is all real time. I just wish somebody would answer the phone so that, or somebody would call in so I can show you something that's going on real time. Okay, yeah. So just I encourage you to take a look at these things, like how many calls are waiting in the queue, how many calls were abandoned, how many agents are logged in, and apparently no agents are logged into this queue. What's the service level? So I think service level is what percentage of calls were answered within the appropriate length of time they specified. What the appropriate length of time was in the settings. So yeah, this is one that isn't available in 3CX. Okay. What else? Take a look at this one. This is for a company, I think they're in Asia somewhere. I'm not sure where they were, but this one you'll see, and this is kind of a point that I wanted to make, is that they took pieces and parts of lots of different wallboards and used that code to build their own wallboard. So this one would be very similar to the one I was just showing you. It's just they're buttons instead of squares, but you get the idea. This is the one that is, do I have, yeah, let me choose a different group, see if I can get some more people to display. There we go. That's a little bit better one. So, oh shoot, I just went too quick. Let's choose that one. I think this is one. Yeah, so this is an example of one that kind of helps us know a little bit better. So these are people that are not available. These are people that are on the phone. These are people that are logged out. Nobody's actually on the phone right now. This would be internal telephone calls. I don't think we added oh, we did. Oh, yeah. So you can change their present status here. So this code was pulled from the Barracuda. This one was pulled from a fairly generic wallboard. This one is from the competitive wallboard, I suspect, right? These are agents, but they selected very specific fields that they wanted to display. And then can we get down to the bottom one? Yeah, and then this is the queues wallboard, if you will. So this shows you the global statistics for the queues that we're watching. So here's my point, is that everybody, and we've been doing this for quite a while now, and I am always having people say, I really like this wallboard. It's almost perfect, but I'd like to add an additional column. Well, the nice thing is that we don't usually get columns that are new, that we haven't done the calculation, that we haven't listened to the 3CX real-time events and figured out how to do the calculations. So now it's just a matter of going to one of the other wallboards and grabbing that section and building a new wallboard with that. So some of these first wallboards probably cost, thousands of dollars to build. But now when we're building wallboards, depending on the complexity of the wallboard, we can do a custom wallboard by pulling pieces and parts from other wallboards to make the wallboard that you want. All right, so that's what this wallboard is about. These, by the way, are groups of queues. So they wanted to see like all the sales queues together, that kind of thing, or all the technical support groups across all product lines. That's what these groups would be groups of queues. All right, so that's another example of a wallboard. Let's go and take a look at another one. So this one's fairly simple. It's just cosmetically a little bit different than the other ones. So again, it's the agents, but very specific criteria that they wanted to see. And so they've got accepted calls versus missed calls. And I'm not sure what these columns are for. Frankly, we've got so many wallboards now, I can't even begin to keep track of them all. And present status. So you see that it's a way. I could probably change. Maybe I should change my. Shall we go out on a limb and change my present status and see if it shows up different? Hopefully, there it
I went
is.
ahead and changed my presence and it did change.
Oh, it did. Oh, okay, cool. Thank you. So I'm not telling baloney stories. This is real, real live. And one of the things that often people overlook is, well, I wish that things were a little bit bigger. Well, it's real easy to just hold down the scroll bar on your mouse and you can change the size of these things without going in and changing fonts. Some of our wallboards you can change the fonts, some of them you can't, but it's always very straightforward to change the font size just using your scroll bar. Okay, here's another one that took pieces and parts from a different wallboard and did something kind of unique with this one. So if we look at this one, these are the queues and these are the statistics for those queues. This should look familiar to one of the other wallboards that I showed you. And then this one is kind of like the agent wallboard, the competitive wallboard. But here's one of the things that's unique is that it's grouped by queue. Or maybe these are groups. These are probably extension groups. So now you can see a bunch of extensions. Boy, we're getting to be pretty big, aren't we, Sarah? We've got a lot of people. So you can see everybody's status. And again, these are all real-time call queues. And you can filter it by queues. You can filter it by profiles. And I think, again, profiles are collections of groups or collections of queues. So that's this one. And I'm going to cheat and I'm going to go straight to this multi-view one. This one was a bit of a challenge. What they wanted was 3 different wallboards all displayed on the same screen, but allow them to choose which wallboards they were displaying at any given time. So these are actually separate wallboards that we put inside an iframe and then displayed them on the screen all at the same time. The advantage to this is that you get to see multiple wallboards at the same time. It's another way to give you some customization. Yeah, some customization. Okay, so that's that wallboard. So hopefully this has given you a flavor for the kinds of wallboards that we can do. From the very, very simple to the very complex, those that are fairly static, meaning they all are real time, but some of them not a lot of customization because they wanted to do what they needed without a lot of cost. And other ones allow you to very highly customize them. So I think you get the flavor of the kinds of wallboards that we can do. With that, I think we're kind of done. I did want to thank you for taking the time to take a look at our tools. I hope that I've given you a sense of what's possible with VoIPTools. We're building wallboards all day long, every day, or adding new features all the time. The remember the one that was made in Asia that had all the different colors? Right now, we've had a customer that's asked they want to be able to change the colors, which buttons show, change all the columns, do all of the same kinds of customizations that we currently can do in, say, competitive wallboard. So These guys are evolving and improving and getting new features all the time. Okay, so that is it for today. Hopefully you've found value in the time that you gave us today. I thank you very much for attending. If you'd like to do a deeper dive on any of these wallboards, please feel free to call us up. You can email us, live chat, phone, and we'll be happy to do a one-on-one demo if that'd be helpful to you. Thank you very much for your time, and have a great day.